Hey there. Sounds like we're going to dive into the world of battery test technicians. It's a career that's really got some juice these days, right? And we've got a ton of info from RoleCatcher. So let's break down what this job really involves from the ins and outs of the lab all the way to the career ladder.
You got it. We've got excerpts from 3 different RoleCatcher articles here. Should give us a good, well-rounded look at this whole field.
All right, perfect. Now, I got to be honest. When I think battery test technician, I'm picturing like someone in a lab coat, maybe holding up one of those glowing batteries.
Mm.
Am I close? What's the reality here? What's it actually like, you know, day to day for a battery test technician?
Well, you can ditch the Frankenstein lab image for sure. Think more along the lines of a high-tech manufacturing plant or maybe like a specialized testing facility.
Okay, got it. More high tech, less bubbling beakers.
Yeah. You'd be working with some seriously cool equipment, battery analyzers, load banks, even these thermal chambers. They use those to see how batteries hold up in extreme temperatures.
Wow, so it's very hands on. That's really interesting. So, what are they actually doing with all this cool gear? What are the core tasks they handle?
At the end of the day, it's all about making sure batteries actually do what they're supposed to do. And of course, figuring out why they fail sometimes.
Right. Quality control, I imagine, is a big part of it.
Huge. They're running tests, resistance, and capacity tests are big ones, analyzing how much charge a battery can hold, how quickly it discharges, that sort of thing.
And when a batch doesn't pass those tests, that's where the battery detective work comes in.
You got it. They're the ones who have to figure out why a certain batch got flagged. And they use their knowledge, along with those specialized tools, to diagnose what went wrong.
I love that analogy. It sounds like problem solving is a major part of this job. But what about the career trajectory itself? I mean, we've mentioned potential for growth, but
Yeah.
what does that actually look like? Can we get a little more specific?
Yeah, for sure. RoleCatcher actually outlines a pretty clear path. Usually you'd start as a trainee, right? You're shadowing more experienced technicians, learning the ropes, getting comfortable with the equipment and procedures.
So, starting with the basics makes sense. Then what?
From there, you'd move up to junior technician. That's where you start to gain more independence.
You get to run your own tests, I'm guessing?
Exactly. You'd be running tests on your own, maybe even doing some minor troubleshooting if any of the equipment acts up.
Okay, so each step up comes with more responsibility. What about the top of the ladder? What's it like to be a seasoned battery test technician?
That's when you reach the senior technician level. There's a whole different ball game at that point.
I bet you're calling the shots, right?
Pretty much. You're overseeing all the testing, making sure the data's accurate, and crucially, you're analyzing all those results to spot any red flags, any problems, any trends that are topping up.
So it's not just about the hands-on testing anymore. There's a lot of analysis involved, too.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting. At that level, you're not just testing anymore. You're developing and implementing quality control measures for the entire process.
Wow. So you go from working with batteries to influencing how they're actually produced.
Exactly. You're ensuring those batteries are safe and reliable before they even leave the facility. It's a career with a lot of impact.
That's amazing. Now, let's rewind a little bit. Let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, okay, I'm intrigued. Being a battery detective sounds pretty cool. What's the catch? Paint me a picture of the workplace. What's the environment actually like?
Well, you got to be comfortable in a setting that's more, let's say, industrial. We're talking manufacturing plants, testing labs, places where safety is really, really important.
So steel toe boots, safety goggles, that kind of environment.
Definitely. And you're going to be on your feet a lot, moving around. Depending on the types of batteries you're testing, there might be some exposure to chemicals, maybe some fumes. You'd have to be okay with that side of things.
Got it. Not your typical cushy office job then.
Nope, not quite. But if you're someone who enjoys hands-on work, a fast-paced environment, it could be a great fit.
Right, right. Now, we all know the battery industry is absolutely booming. Electric cars, renewable energy, everyone wants in on that battery power. How does that translate to actual job opportunities for someone wanting to break into this field? Is it as competitive as it sounds?
It's incredibly promising, but yeah, it's getting more competitive all the time, for sure.
Uh,
And that's only natural as the demand for these skilled technicians keeps growing.
it's a good sign for anyone already in the field or thinking of joining, though.
Right, exactly. We're seeing this surge in all kinds of industries, automotive, electronics, even aerospace, and every single one of them relies heavily on battery technology. And behind every great battery. Well, there's a great battery test technician.
So true. It's a career that's definitely got some serious staying power.
Yeah.
Now, I did notice that RoleCatcher actually offers some really interesting tools to help people navigate this whole job market. They have this thing called RoleCatcher Copilot AI. It sounds futuristic. What is it?
It's actually really cool. It's their own AI platform that's specifically designed to, help you stand out during your job hunt. It's almost like having a personal career coach right there on your computer.
Okay, now you've got my attention. How does it actually work? Okay, now you've got my attention. How does it actually work?
So picture this. You upload your resume, right?
Yeah.
And this AI, it goes to work, analyzes your whole resume, but it doesn't stop there. It takes those actual job descriptions you're interested in, the ones for like battery test technicians, and it compares them to your resume. And then it suggests ways to make your skills and experience really stand out to those specific employers.
No more generic resumes then. That's awesome. So
Yeah.
it's all about super targeted applications.
Yes.
Does it do anything else? Like what if you're missing a certain skill?
That's the cool part. Let's say there's this skill keeps popping up in all those battery test technician job descriptions, the Copilot AI. It can actually pinpoint that gap for you. And then, get this, it'll even point you toward relevant courses, maybe some online resources, things that can actually help you level up and fill that gap.
It's like a personalized roadmap for your career. I'm really liking this. But what about the interview itself? Any help there? Because it's always a little nerve-wracking.
Oh, they've got you covered. RoleCatcher, they have this huge, massive database of interview questions.
Okay, how huge are we talking?
We're talking over 120,000 interview questions.
That's a lot of questions.
And here's the best part. They're all categorized by the actual role. So you can practice answering questions that are specifically designed for, you guessed it, battery test technicians.
That's incredible. Talk about being prepared. So are we talking like really general questions, or do they get into the specifics of battery testing?
They've got both. I mean, they cover all the basics, like, tell me about your experience with battery testing equipment, or the classic, what are your salary expectations? That one.
Oh yeah, that's always a fun one to navigate. It's good to have a number in mind, though. But I bet they go deeper than that.
Oh, absolutely. They definitely go deeper.
What about those curveball questions? The ones that really make you think on your feet?
They've got those too. Imagine getting hit with, describe a time you had to troubleshoot a faulty battery analyzer. What were the steps you took?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Or, here's another one. How would you explain this complex battery testing data, but to someone who has absolutely no technical background?
Those are great examples. Because it's one thing to know the theory, but explaining it clearly or thinking on your feet when something goes wrong, those are the real-world skills that employers really value. It sounds like RoleCatcher's thought of everything someone needs to just ace that interview. Okay, before we get too far off track, I want to circle back to salary for a second. We've been saying good salary potential, but let's get real. What can someone actually expect to earn in this field?
Well, they don't give any hard numbers, obviously. It can vary a lot depending on, experience, location, that kind of thing. But what is clear is that skilled battery test technicians are in high demand, right? And in this market, that gives you some bargaining power, especially once you've got a few years of experience under your belt.
Right. Location's got to play a role too, I'd imagine. Like a big city versus a more rural area, right?
Huge factor. And then there's your experience level, of course. But there's also something else that can really make a difference.
Okay, what's that?
Certifications. Getting those specialized certifications can be a game changer.
I bet. So it's not just about the years you've put in, it's about having that extra edge.
Exactly. Let's say you become an expert in lithium-ion battery testing, which, by the way, is huge right now with all the electric vehicles and everything. That kind of specialized knowledge that can make you a really attractive candidate and potentially bump up that earning potential.
It's all about staying ahead of the curve. And that brings me back to something you mentioned earlier, those alternative job titles. So are you saying that those skills you learn as a battery test technician, they're actually transferable to other roles, even outside of, say, straight-up battery testing?
You got it. You're comfortable with all the technical equipment. You understand electrical systems. You're a pro at analyzing data, troubleshooting problems. Those are valuable skills in a lot of different industries.
So even if down the road someone decides, you know what, battery testing isn't quite for me, it's not a dead end.
Not at all.
What are some of those alternative titles they could look into?
Let's see, RoleCatcher lists a few, like precision device inspector, electrical equipment inspector. There's even printed circuit board test technician. So yeah, there are definitely options out there.
That's great to hear. It's a career with some built-in versatility. which in today's job market, that's pretty reassuring.
Mm.
Now, I want to zoom out a little bit and look at the bigger picture. We know the battery industry right now, it's on fire. But what about the long game? Is this growth sustainable? Or are we heading for, like, a battery bubble?
All signs point to, continued growth. The whole world's shifting towards renewable energy, right?
It's true.
Electric vehicles are becoming more mainstream. And our reliance on all our gadgets, all our portable electronics, it's only increasing. And all of that means good news for battery technology. And of course, the skilled professionals who are keeping those batteries running.
So it's not just a job, it's a future-proof career path. Now, before we shift gears here, anything else about this whole battery test technician world that really stuck out to you from those RoleCatcher materials?
They mentioned something that I think often gets overlooked in these conversations, professional organizations.
Right. Networking, professional development, that stuff is important no matter what field you're in. Did they actually recommend any specific organizations for battery test technicians? Did they actually recommend any specific organizations for battery test technicians?
They didn't name any one organization specifically, but they stressed how important it is to connect with other people in the field. Networking.
Yeah.
They said to look into some of those broader organizations, the ones related to engineering or electronics or quality control.
That makes sense. Even if there's not a Battery Testers United group out there, tapping into those bigger networks, it could lead to some good stuff, right? Mentorship, maybe some professional development opportunities, maybe even some conferences.
Oh, totally.
I mean, imagine going to a conference and hearing from the leaders in the battery world.
Yeah, and getting the inside scoop on all the latest battery tech.
It'd be like a sneak peek into the future of batteries. And speaking of the future, I keep thinking back to that AI tool, that RoleCatcher Copilot AI. Could that be useful even after you've landed the job for ongoing career development?
Absolutely. It's not just for finding the job in the first place. You can use it to keep up with trends in the industry, see what new skills are in demand, maybe even find a mentor, someone further along in their battery testing career.
So it can actually evolve with you throughout your whole career.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And, it's easy to get caught up in all the tech stuff when we're talking about battery testing. The equipment, all the data, all that analysis. But at the end of the day, it's people who drive this whole thing forward.
Totally agree. Behind every electric car, every smartphone, there's a team of battery test technicians who made sure that battery is safe, reliable, high performing.
Right. They might not always get the spotlight, but they're the ones making it all happen.
Exactly. The unsung heroes of our increasingly electrified world.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot of ground today, from the nitty-gritty work of a battery test technician to this booming industry that just keeps growing.
It's an exciting time to be a part of it.
For sure. What would you say is the key takeaway for our listeners today, especially for anyone out there thinking about a career in battery testing?
I'd say if you're into technology, if you like working with your hands, if you thrive in a fast-paced environment, this could be a great fit for you. It's a career with a lot of stability and a ton of potential. And if you've got resources like RoleCatcher in your toolkit, you'll be more than ready to tackle those challenges and make the most of all the opportunities.
I love it. The battery revolution is happening now, and you could be a part of it. So stay curious, explore those resources, and hey, maybe you'll be the one testing out the batteries that power our world in the future. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.